Now let's go to Kobane, where the coalition have led airstrikes again against ISIS. Now we know that they have made steady advances, the Islamic State militants. They've entered the key Syrian border town in three specific areas, three districts. There was heavy fighting, street-to-street fighting with Syrian Kurdish defenders, and we do know too that a number of people have fled the area and have fled across into Turkey. So we also know, of course, yesterday that ISIS raised their black flag on buildings and hills, certainly at a distance, but today they have made further advances into the city. Now, Idris Nassan is a senior spokesman for Kurdish fighters, and he is also in Kobane. He says while they are still resisting the attack by Islamic State, they certainly need help from international forces.
You know, it's very hard for Kurdish fighters, for the People Protection Unit to stay resisting for a long time because they don't have, you know, enough weaponry to fight against the ISIS. Because, you know, ISIS had a lot of heavy weaponry that they brought from Iraq, from Syria, from many places, military places in Iraq and Syria. And so the YPG leaders and also the Democratic Autonomous Administration in Kobane called for the international community to give help, ammunition and heavy weaponry.
Faisal Al Yafai is the chief columnist for the national newspaper in Abu Dhabi. He's written extensively on this issue. Faisal, thanks very much for joining us tonight. We're hearing, of course, reports that there have been fresh airstrikes, coalition airstrikes against ISIS. Do you think it's going to be enough to stop the march of ISIS into Kobane?
Well, the honest answer is we don't yet know. It's a very fast-moving, fluid situation. The reports that we hear now is that parts of Kobane have fallen to ISIS, but parts are still controlled by the Kurdish Peshmerga. The Turkish troops are massed on their side of the border, but they have not yet engaged the ISIS fighters within the city.
Is there some hope that the Turkish troops will move more forcefully into the city?
Well, I think that the Turkish troops appear to be waiting until the fighting reaches their side of the border. Personally, I think this is quite a dangerous strategy. It would be far better for them to coordinate with the Peshmerga. But as you know, there are sort of political issues involved. The Turks want to stay on their own side of the border until they are forced to do so. Remember that they are fighting a very heavily armed group of fighters in ISIS. There are tanks, there are RPGs. It isn't just a group of people with Kalashnikovs.
The problem is, as you sort of allude to, is that they could miss an opportunity to really keep ISIS out of this very strategic town.
Yes, it's hugely strategic, and it's a very pivotal moment, actually, because if they reach this town, they will then be able to connect the two parts of Syria, the west towards Aleppo and the east towards Raqqa, that they now control. More than that, though, they will then be on the border of Turkey, a nation-state that is part of NATO. And as you know, you'll have heard reports that NATO are preparing a strategy to contain ISIS if that happens.
And but this town, tell us a little bit more about its strategic importance. We're seeing, as you were pointing out, the physical presence of it. But do you think this to them to ISIS is the link in terms of what they've been trying to achieve?
Yes, I mean, because of the Syrian civil war, there's been a lot of chaos in the country, and of course, ISIS controls Raqqa, which is a city in northeastern Syria. This is their stronghold. It's from there that they've moved out into Iraq. At the same time, they also have forces massed in Aleppo, in the west of Syria. Now, those two parts can be connected by Kobane. So if Kobane falls, they will then have this long strategic region under their control right on the border with Turkey.
Faisal, do ISIS seem to be evolving with the coalition airstrikes, of course, hitting some targets early? Do they seem to be regrouping and really rethinking their strategy?
It does look like they are. I mean, they are a formidable enemy, and not merely formidable because of the weaponry that they have acquired, but because tactically, yes, they do seem to be anticipating what happens, or what will happen. Now, part of the reason for that, of course, is that there was a lot of talk in the West, particularly about the need to confront ISIS, about the airstrikes, a long run-up before actually anything happened, which gave them time to prepare. But, as you point out, they are evolving. They are thinking through what needs to happen. And they are far more nimble than a state army would be, or than a state army can be in this situation.
You've written about a three-pronged attack. Of course, the military effort that we're seeing, choking them off economically, which international groups have talked about. But I'm interested in what you mean by dissecting or unravelling the intellectual architecture of the group. Why is that so critical, and what would that mean?
Well, the argument is really that there is a narrative that ISIS have. I think that we have tended, both in the Arab world and in the West, to look at these people as sort of, young men looking for excitement. Perhaps they don't have jobs, perhaps they don't have girlfriends, perhaps they can't find their way in the world. Actually, that better explains the problem of criminal gangs in our own countries, rather than what's happening with ISIS. ISIS have an intellectual construction. They really believe that they are facing a pivotal moment in global history, and that is why they are fighting on the front lines. And we have left that narrative part out. Both the West and the Arab world have ceded that territory to them. So we are fighting them militarily. We will seek to tackle them economically, to squeeze off their funds. But at the moment, we are not tackling them intellectually.
Faisal, thanks for your insights. Much appreciated.
Thank you.